Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. As a Michigan fan myself, I think I speak for a lot of Michigan fans who follow this program pretty dang closely, and that is we are all fired up for what the recruiting efforts for this Michigan program look like the next couple of weeks and months. If there is one stark change that we've seen with this Michigan program ever since Sherrone Moore has taken over, it looks like Michigan is going to try to maximize itself on the recruiting trail. And really, that's how it should look. Where you look at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh, player development, I don't know if there's a program that was developing talent better than Michigan. I certainly don't think a program had better culture than what you saw at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. I think the most frustrating part for a lot of us Michigan fans was elite player development, elite culture, winning a lot of football games, Big Ten championships, beating Ohio State, national championships. It never really seemed like the recruiting efforts kind of followed all of that success. And I think Sherrone Moore is trying to fix that. And I think at the biggest position you can see this play out at is at the quarterback spot, where Michigan recruiting quarterbacks, it hasn't been good enough, as evident in that 2024 class. It's been really inconsistent and spotty. Right? You landed a guy like JJ McCarthy, and then you landed Alex Orji and Jaden Denigal the next class. Didn't even land a quarterback the class after that. What I think Sherrone Moore is trying to do is, hey, we're going to try to bolster our recruiting efforts in general on the recruiting trail, but we specifically have to get better recruiting top talent at the quarterback position so we don't have a 2024 season like we saw the last couple of months. Michigan seems to be doing that. And I think a big reason is the hire of Chip Lindsay at the offensive coordinator spot, where not only was that a massive hire in terms of, hey, project number one is what OC do we think we can bring in to develop Bryce Underwood at the highest level? I think Sherrone Moore clearly said, hey, Chip Lindsay's that guy. Historically, very, very good developing quarterbacks. But what Chip Lindsay's also historically good at is recruiting quarterbacks. And if you can get an offensive coordinator that not only can recruit top talent to Ann Arbor at the quarterback spot, but also develop that top talent, chances are you're going to have good quarterback play. And chances are you're going to win a lot of football games. And it seemed like at that position, Michigan at times, so you hit with JJ McCarthy. That was kind of the only real hit for Michigan in terms of high school recruiting quarterbacks in a real long time. I think Sherrone Moore's trying to change that, and you see it playing out in 2026. This is going to be an early conversation regarding what that quarterback board looks like for Michigan in this 2026 class, and just kind of highlight, what Michigan is trying to do on the recruiting trail as it pertains to quarterbacks. We're going to talk about three of them. Before we do, and as always, the Michigan fans, especially to the Michigan fans who really rock with it on the recruiting trail, thank you to you guys. It's, as a recruiting nerd myself, it's been a blast talking Michigan on the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all continue to show in the winter and spring months has been elite. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I want to start with the quarterback prospect that I think really resembles what we're trying to talk about. That's five-star quarterback Ryder Lyons out there in the state of California. This is historically a quarterback that Michigan would not be a player for. And all of a sudden, Chip Lindsay goes and takes a visit out there, watches Ryder Lyons work out, and all of a sudden it sounds like Michigan is a team in contention for quarterback Ryder Lyons. Now, Oregon and USC are probably the two top teams to watch, probably the leaders in the clubhouse with this recruitment, but all of a sudden you're hearing buzz around what Ryder Lyons thinks of Michigan. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get Ryder Lyons on campus to Ann Arbor. This one to me is my quarterback number one, not only because I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the 2026 class, but from a quarterback runway standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. He's in the 2026 class, but he's going to be taking a mission trip for a year. So he's essentially not coming in until 2027, which has him coming in the last year Bryce Underwood's here. And so he'll be a true freshman as Bryce Underwood's year three. Bryce Underwood, ideally for us Michigan fans, going off to the NFL draft after 3 years, because that means he kind of played the way we expected him to play. And it potentially means Ryder Lyons coming in and potentially taking over the reins in year two. And to me, you look at quarterback runway, something that Michigan kind of screwed up with after they landed J.J. McCarthy. You start feeling good about the quarterback runway with Bryce Underwood. Then he moves on, and you kind of slide in Ryder Lyons. And I think it would make sense for Ryder Lyons too. It's hard to recruit quarterbacks in the 2026 class to come in and follow Bryce Underwood because they know you're probably sitting for 2 years. I think the ideal for a lot of these quarterbacks coming out of high school, the ideal year is 1 year you sit and you play for 2. That's what you would get with the guy like Ryder Lyons. And on top of that, why do I like Ryder Lyons so much? He's been very, very good at the high score ranks last 2 years, 65% completion percentage, 6,500 yards, 84 touchdowns, to only 14 interceptions. But the intangibles, when you dive into the film, that's probably what you like most about him, his ability to create. He's a dual threat quarterback, probably not the athlete that Bryce Underwood is running the football, but in terms of getting out of the pocket, evading pressure, throwing off platform, as Jim Harbaugh used to say, making wine out of water, something J.J. McCarthy did so well. Ryder Lyons does that at a very high level too. And that is becoming such a massive part of playing the quarterback position, both in the collegiate and NFL ranks. Michigan kind of found this out at firsthand. A guy like Davis Warren. And Davis Warren, from a pocket standpoint, I mean, short intermediate game, Davis Warren was pretty dang good at. Did not really have much to offer with the deep ball, and certainly could not extend plays and be a game changer at the quarterback position from an athleticism standpoint. You look at all the best quarterbacks that we've seen both at the collegiate and NFL ranks, they have some sort of ability to be playmakers outside the pocket as throwers. Ryder Lyons probably the best in the 2026 class in terms of getting outside the pocket and being a difference maker. Probably my ideal quarterback because, one, he's only going to sit 1 year and ready to take over the reins, and two, he's a legitimate difference maker at the quarterback position, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. But as a Michigan fan, I'm just impressed that, I mean, those are two heavy hitters out on the West Coast, and Dan Lanning in Oregon, Lincoln Riley at USC. He's got an older brother that plays for USC, and all of a sudden Chip Lindsay has Michigan in this conversation. Next quarterback that I like, probably quarterback 3 for me, Brady Smigiel, another Cali kid. 6'5", 205, kind of reminds you almost of like Ryan Mallett. It's kind of a throwback. Not necessarily the twitchy athlete that Ryder Lyons is. He is a big, powerful arm quarterback that has thrown for over 11,000 yards during his career, 147 touchdowns to 28 interceptions. That's going into his senior year. He hasn't played his senior year of football yet. The production is off the charts for this kid. And as a pocket passer, there's not many better. He can make all the throws from the pocket. The one knock you probably have is he's a solid athlete. Kind of reminds you of Brady Hart too. He's a very solid athlete, but I don't know if he's a legitimate difference maker outside the pocket. I think Chip Lindsay could run a very good offense with Brady Smigiel, but I do think that a guy like Ryder Lyons probably brings a little bit more juice getting outside the pocket. But it's hard to argue with not only the film. When you turn on the film, it's a laser show. I mean, he's just, the ball's going everywhere. Boundary, middle of the field, deeper third, throws off platform well, just a little bit limited athletically. He's a little bit more of that. He's not a statue. And again, I want to be clear with that. He's not a statue in the pocket, but he's a guy that you can tell does not excel getting outside the pocket and kind of creating. The last one who I think is really interesting, all Cali kids, which is kind of an interesting thing to probably just write down on the notepad. Oscar Rios, a little bit more raw, doesn't have the production that Ryder Lyons or Brady Smigiel have, but he's long. He's got like this whippy throwing motion. He's very good creating outside the pocket, legitimate dual threat quarterback that can get it done as an athlete. Probably needs to get that frame up a little bit. He is a very, very long, skinny kid, and I'm guessing he'll probably put weight on as he develops as a high school quarterback going into his senior year. It's another guy that brings you that athleticism that I think Michigan is probably looking for after going through a 2024 season where you had a guy in Davis Warren that just could not create and was so one-dimensional as a quarterback. The biggest takeaway here is, even after landing Bryce Underwood in 2025, Michigan seems to be making headway with a lot of really good quarterbacks in this 2026 class. And as a Michigan fan myself, it gives me a little bit more confidence that, yeah, we're going to have really good quarterback play over the next couple of years with Bryce. But you feel really dang good about what the quarterback position can look like long-term for Michigan, because Sherrone Moore went out and made a hire with Chip Lindsay that has a long track record of developing quarterbacks and can get it done on the recruiting trail. Something at the offensive coordinator spot that Michigan never really had. I mean, you even go back to Sherrone Moore. Love Sherrone Moore. Y'all know that. He was not a quarterback whisperer by any means. He's an offensive line guy who was running the offense. Having a guy like Chip Lindsay who can develop quarterbacks, this is why I was such a big fan of the Chip Lindsay hire in the first place. if you want to have a good offense, you got to have good quarterback play. And if you want to have good quarterback play, you have to have a coach that can recruit and develop quarterbacks. I think Chip Lindsay can do that. And we're starting to see that play out in the 2026 cycle. We'll pause it there. Ryder Lyons, to me, is the guy that, one, it just makes so much sense from a quarterback runway timetable standpoint. And I love this kid out of high school. If Michigan can really get in it with Ryder Lyons, that's the guy that if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm really looking for. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Going to be a really fun next couple of weeks and months, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.